From the studios of Foxboro Cable Access, located in the center of Foxborough, Massachusetts, you are watching Around Foxborough.
Welcome back to Around Foxborough. Today we are recording the special edition for the town election coming up on May 2nd. And we have Rob Canfield, who's running for school committee with us. Welcome, Rob.
Thanks very much, Jury. It's happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm very happy to host you today. So, Rob, can you please tell our audience who you are and why you're running for the committee again?
Of course. So thank you. I am Rob Canfield. I am my family and I have been residents of Foxborough for close to 28 years. We have had students in the Foxborough Public Schools for 22 years. We have our last child is graduating this year, so it is after 22 years, we will no longer be parents in the Foxborough Public Schools, but we will absolutely continue to be active participants in our school community. As you said, Jury, I have spent the last 3 years on the school committee. Prior to that, I spent 3 years on the advisory committee for our town. And then I had the great privilege for this past year to be the chairperson of the committee. So I am running for re-election. I had some people say, you don't have a kid, you're not going to have a child in the school. Why do you want to continue to run for school committee? And I think there are a couple of ways to answer that question for myself. First and foremost, I really believe in the goals of public education in our country. I think that every student deserves access to equitable and inclusive quality public education. And I think we do that really, really well here in Foxborough. We can always do better. We continue to look at ways to do better. We continue to look at ways to reach our children more effectively and help them find success earlier and more consistently. But I do think we do a really great job. And I learn every single day. I learn something from our teachers. I learn something from our students. I learn something from our administration, and I learn something from our community. And I think that is probably what drove me the most. I don't feel like I'm done with being involved, being a public servant in Foxborough. And I think that it's just a great gift and a great source of responsibility. So I decided that 3 more years were probably the right thing for me, because I feel like it takes a few years to understand what the role of the school committee is, to understand how we work in collaboration with our community, with our administration, with our educators, with our legislatures. And I think that, the next 3 years, we could have a really strong sitting board, or an even stronger sitting board than we have now, with the consistency of re-electing experienced leadership.
Well, thank you so much for the answer. And before we move on to future, can you please explain to us what was maybe the challenge that you had for the past 3 years, or what was the joy and also the joy that you enjoyed for the past 3 years as a school committee and chairperson?
Absolutely. I love talking about the schools. So it's easy. This is like a softball question a little bit for me. So challenges. I think first, when I joined the school committee, as I said, I had spent 3 years on the advisory committee. So I had a basic understanding of how town finance works, how the different committees and boards and associations work in our town, departments work in our town. I had been a liaison on AdCom to the school budget committee. So as part of my role on AdCom, I would sit down every year along with a couple of other members and review the town budget, or excuse me, the school's budget before they went to approval for the school committee and before they went to the town meeting for approval. So I understood the budgeting process a little bit better than I might have if I hadn't had that opportunity. But I didn't really understand how the committee worked, right? I didn't understand the checks and balances, as I said, that are in place between the administration, the educators, the legislature in our state, our community, and the committee. How we as a committee have one voice. We are not 5 individuals with 5 individual voices. We are one voice, right? And we have a very finite set of roles. We have a very finite role to play. We oversee budget. we oversee the performance of our superintendent, and we write policy that help our schools operate. Those are the roles of the school committee. So I had a little bit steeper learning curve than I anticipated, but I also appreciated that I was welcomed into a board of experienced members that helped me learn the role. I was welcomed by educators and administrators who were comfortable with the questions that I was asking in order to get a better understanding of how we operate. They were also comfortable with the challenges that we put out there, asking them to do better in some cases, asking them to focus more on the data and the evidence that we use in education to drive student outcomes. And I was really, really impressed with the great things that are happening in our schools every day. As you talk about some of the challenges more recently, certainly the past 2 years were unprecedented. Nobody knew nobody knew what the future looked like. I don't think any of us anticipated what the role of the school committee would be over the course of the pandemic. As we were moving into a hybrid role, I felt like we created a culture of support for our administration, our educators, and our students. That's our job as a school committee, to make sure that our educators and our students have the resources that they need to be successful. And I think we did that very well over the past 2 years. I think most recently this past year, when we were able to start having meetings again in person, being able to welcome our community back to the table in our business meetings was a great opportunity. It was a great opportunity to learn. It was a great opportunity to hear directly. We had been communicating it solely via email for the previous year, but having community members, concerned parents, concerned taxpayers back in the room with us to share their thoughts was incredibly valuable, right? So those are things that I'm really proud of. What drives me most, though, is we have an opportunity every single business meeting of our school committee. We invite educators, we invite students in to give us a teaching and learning highlight. Those are the highlight of every single meeting. And some of the ones that we've had most recently, we had the high school musical, 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. First time the high schools had a musical in over 2 years. Right? So we had those students there talking about what that process was like. We had a group of elementary school students from all across the elementary schools talking about foreign language, world language, learning Spanish, and the different ways that the different modes of learning that that the teachers and the students were incorporating into the curriculum to have every student become more comfortable with a foreign language, to become more comfortable with Spanish, and to see those kids up there doing what they were doing, representing what they were learning, having fun, and being valued for what they were doing. That's the piece that is that's why we do this, right? We do this for the kids. And then finally, in that same segment, most recently, we had our student services, our special education leaders, talking about the innovation that they approach their work with every day and how they're measuring their success. And it's inspirational. I mean, I'm not embarrassed to say that when these teachers, they're talking about what they do, how they do it, and what they're doing to reach their students and to help them find their voices, it honestly, sometimes tears fill my eyes, because it's just, we're so fortunate. We're so fortunate here in Foxborough that we have these dedicated teachers. So that's always the highlight for me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And with the experiences that you gained over the 3 years, what you mentioned that you are no longer the parent of the kids who are going to be attending the Foxborough public school system. However, you feel the need of another 3 years for your dedication to possibly change something. So what is your goal if you are to be re-elected to devote your another 3 years to this committee?
Sure. Like I said earlier, consistency is very important to me, right? we have done a lot of work. Last year we introduced our strategic vision for the district, or the administration introduced, and we approved the strategic plan for the district through 2025. One of the foundations of that vision, of that plan, is continued emphasis on social and emotional learning development, on diversity, equity, inclusion, and a lot of that is the cornerstone of what we call our multi-tiered system of support, which is around identifying gaps and opportunities to reach all of our students, whether they're in a special education population or a general education population. What are we doing to come out of the past 2 years to make sure our students fill any gaps that might have been created by the environment that we had to learn in the past 2 years? What are we doing to identify earlier, more consistently, other, whether it's a learning opportunity, a social development opportunity, or emotional challenges? What are we doing as an education team to identify those and reach those students earlier and get them the support and services that they need earlier and more effectively? That's the cornerstone of our strategic vision for the next 5 years. And I'm really proud of that. I think that as we look at what's happening in our schools very specifically, as we look at next year, I think everyone in the town is probably aware, we are going to have 3 new building leads next year. We're going to have 2 new elementary school principals at the Borough and at the IGO. We're going to have a new high school principal, and we're going to have a new assistant principal at the high school. Excuse me, and assistant superintendent in the district. I apologize for that. So that's a lot of change, right? I think that, again, consistency and the collaboration and the trust that has developed between the administration and the committee, we do check and balance each other. I think it's going to be very important to support our superintendent, our business manager, our new district leaders, and our new building leaders with a consistent committee.
Well, thank you so much for that. And how can people reach out to you if they have individual questions?
Sure. So, of course, I have a Facebook page, Reelect Rob Canfield for Foxborough School Committee. We are certainly answering questions on that. My contact is available on the town website as well. So both my phone number and my personal email address, excuse me, not my personal email address, my school email address is available on the town website. But you can reach me, so you can either reach me through Facebook or you can reach me through the town website, through the school's website.
Great. So for coming up election, for people who's going to be watching this episode, will you tell the last word why people should vote for you?
Only one word? I only get to use one word?
Oh, you can say.
I could use more than one word. I'm kidding. I'm joking with you. I'm sorry. Again, experienced leadership. I focus on community. I focus on consensus. It takes a community to achieve successful student outcomes. It's not just the schools. It's not just the home. It's not just the teachers. It's all of us, right? We are lucky in Foxborough that we have that community. We have schools that are preparing our students to be successful for whatever happens or whatever is in store, life has in store for them when they leave Foxborough Public Schools. And again, that doesn't happen by chance. That happens by taking committed leadership, committed public servant, and the ability to listen more than we talk, the ability to do the research, to continue to challenge yourselves to do better. And we do that really effectively in Foxborough.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time today with us around Foxborough Cable Access. So
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time this morning.
Absolutely. My name is Julia Love. I'm your host. We have Paul Beck as our director and Michael Weber as our executive producer and director. Thank you so much, everyone, and see you next time.